Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mr. Mikhail's Manor of Mischief, Magic, and Mystery, the podcast where we talk about music, the occult, and just day-to-day life. I am your host, Andrew Mikhail, and welcome to the 6M Podcast. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. And welcome to episode 37 of the podcast. How's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's staying sane and staying safe. It is, at the moment of this recording, October 28th, 2020. And it seems like everybody's lost their goddamn minds. And you might be wondering why. What's the big deal? What's going on in 2020 at the end of October? Well, it's election week. And just like 4 years ago, people are losing their goddamn minds, as always, every election. But this one's just a little bit raw, a little bit more wild. With a Y. And I've always said that this podcast isn't a political podcast, so I'm not really going to get into the debate or the discussion via this erection. See what I did there? But I will say, no matter what happens, hopefully everybody listening to this is of the same mindset as myself, which is of the initiated mind. And I just have high hopes for everybody that's going to be listening to this versus all of the people that aren't listening to alternative radio of some sort. But, I hope that however it goes this week, everybody stays calm, everybody stays cool, and life will go on. Because I'll tell you this, no matter whatever way this election goes, so just a forewarning, before you guys start losing your mind on November 4th, just know that unfortunately, at the environment that we've built for each other in this current landscape, in this current glimpse of time, no matter which way the election goes, it will probably end up going to court or being disputed for, I don't know, however long it will be. And I just hope in my heart of hearts that whichever way this thing sways, that the sanctity of humanity is preserved and the sanctity of our society is restored, and we can move along with our lives, hopefully not under oppression to the point that we literally won't be able to live. I hope that we can, have a life again. I hope that we can open back up. I hope that we can get out and play again, shows, whatever, going to bars, hanging out, go to restaurants, fucking going on Tinder dates, whatever. I hope that we can return to that and be able to stand one another, because at the moment it just seems like everybody, including myself, like I honestly, whenever someone gets on their soapbox, so to speak, online, I immediately retreat, and I try and preserve my opinion of these people, of my acquaintances. I wouldn't say that like a lot of my close friends or like real life friends do that, like, at all. But it seems like a lot of acquaintances or, even listeners or fans of the podcast or of the band or of my previous work in life, seems like a lot of people are taking it to the streets, and the streets are the internet, to voice their completely unbiased opinion. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And seems like nobody can talk to each other anymore, because even if you do post your opinion, everyone else will either, pat you on the back and say, good job, or they'll say, hey, you're absolutely wrong, and that will spark an argument, not even a open-ended back and forth, not even an inspired conversation. It would just turn into, vehemence, pretty much. It would turn into anger, hatred, deleting, blocking, unfollowing, whatever. And, I keep my political views close to the heart because that's how I was raised. I have changed over the years. Like, I've been singing about the same types of stuff, right? I've been singing about avoiding a lot of situations that are starting to unfold or have already happened in the past 10 years. And with that, like, my political views change. So it's like I never belong to one party or the other. But I do poke fun at all parties whenever I want to, because I really do see it all in good fun. I really don't think anything that I say is going to change anybody's opinion. I don't think anything I post is going to, be a proper representation of myself, because I am strictly trying to entertain at this point and trying to reach all the parties, all the, what would you call it, facets of life or facets of belief. And that even includes, not even talking politically, right? So you can apply this to music, right? I'll post to deathcore people. I'll post to black metal elitists. I'll post to, people that like R&B, hip hop. I'll post, it's like, or even if you want to look at it in the Serpents perspective, like, I'll post occult stuff. I'll post Christian stuff, because honestly, being who I am, being the way I am, I cherry pick traits that I enjoy, traits that I connect with from each facet, each belief system, each political party, each whatever, that I enjoy or find interesting. And that's a big thing. I feel like everyone's identity has been condensed into the internet. So, you see that with cancel culture, and you'll see that with, celebrities, comedians, etc. Like, there is no medium. There is no, what's it called? Context. It's black and white, and I've always lived in the gray. That's the best way to explain it. I don't really feel like it's anyone's right to sit there and say, Andrew Mikhail is a deathcore guitarist only. Sorry, I keep hearing my goddamn mouth clicking. So it's like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I don't consider myself strictly a musician. I don't consider myself a podcaster by trade. I don't consider myself an occultist. speaker, whatever. I do all things. I do all kinds of things because I enjoy it and it's interesting and it keeps life interesting. And that's what I like about my life. And that goes to politics as well. And it hurts my entire being to see people, including, I don't know, like, again, politics, to see one side and absolutely ignore just the existence of the other side. And same thing, like you'll find me in Facebook groups or whatever, enticing, deathcore kids about, hardcore, metalcore influences or vice versa. And I've always done this, guys. I have always done it. I've always been like this. Even since I was a teenager, I was in a couple bands before Oceano and whatnot. And everybody kind of really didn't understand what we were doing at the time because I really didn't feel like it could have been labeled anyway. So for those of you that remember, I was in this high school band for quite a few years called Forsworn. And we actually released a track like a year or two ago. We did a little reunion. And we have some material as well from that era of time of getting together and trying to re-spark something. Because I feel like it was endearing to everyone in our area, in the Chicagoland area, to remember those times. Because a lot of friends were made during those times, relationships, enemies, whatever. A lot of people got married and they met at a Forsworn show, whatever. But back in the day, people would always be like, what genre is this? And like, we were a metal band that loved Swedish melodic death metal. Our singer liked more punk, hardcore, and metalcore, and our guitar player liked more prog, epic kind of stuff. Our bass player liked death metal, like gore grind, and our drummer, he liked Slayer and fucking, all these different whatever. It's hard to explain what he listens to, but we kind of blended everything and made something that was a little bit of an influence from all of those aspects. And as an entity, we could not be really identified, but I feel like back then people could subscribe to that and be like, it's more accessible at that point. Whereas now it's, what's your hashtag? Oh, black and death metal. Like, for those of you that go to the Serpents Instagram or pretty much anywhere, we have to identify ourselves as one thing because that's the way society's set up. And unfortunately, you have people physically acting out on these societal norms as I speak in the streets. There are cities pretty much on fire because there's no more talking to one another. There's no more middle ground. It's, I'm going to scream in your face, then beat you if you don't, not even align yourself to my dialogue, but if you are there and you're not with me, I'm going to beat you in the street, like as if you are not a human being. And like I said, the same goes for all different sides. I'm not really singling any side out because each side has something you can take from it, right? I don't understand why our society is so like one-dimensional. Does that make sense? The fact that we're so one-dimensional and also at the very same time delusional, which isn't anybody's fault that we're delusional. I mean, I said it a few months ago, because once quarantine hit, I kind of dove deep on a whole bunch of stuff. I was trying to figure out life, where our country's going. I know I have quite a few listeners in like India and all over the world, which is awesome. And I thank you so much for listening to the podcast all the way over there. And I'm sure you guys see it over there as well. Everybody has, societal norms that you basically have been taught since you were little to uphold, and anything that's not a part of the norm, you try to crush it and dilute it so that it ends up bleached and sanitized and ready for, consumption for your society. And I feel like that was instilled in America, my generation, for the past 15 to 30 years. And if you look at it, if you look it up, this was honestly the start of my 2020 journey. Okay? So remember, ever since I was younger, all the way till now, I have always questioned what I was being told. I always questioned authority, and I always try to see both sides of pretty much whatever someone is telling me. So if I go to a restaurant, they say, the steak is very good. My train of thought is, why is he telling me the steak is good? Is it about to expire? Are they trying to unload it? Is he trying to sell me the steak so he can get a bigger profit margin with his tips? Is he trying to get a bigger tip? Maybe the steak is really good. Maybe he really cares for me. Maybe he wants me to have a good experience. That's just my way of thinking, and I apply that pretty much to everything. And it's very, 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 very tiresome. I will tell you this. If you choose to live like this, if you become initiated, if you become enlightened, illuminated, whatever the fuck you want to call it, woke, I don't know what people call it these days. It is very tiresome, and I've talked about this, in previous episodes of the podcast, where it is hell living like this. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't choose ignorance ever over how I think and how I feel, because it's enriched my life. I'm not bereaved or bereft. Does that make sense? It's enriched my life, and I am thankful for the fact that I can listen to politicians, I can listen to, musicians, I can listen to whoever, comedians, actors, whoever, preachers, pastors, whatever. And I can see what their agenda is, and I can see what they mean. I could see how it could be misconstrued. And I take it all in, and I make a decision. I make a choice. And a lot of the time in the public sphere of things, I make a choice strictly for entertainment. I'm fighting a losing battle at the moment. I've got the podcast. I've got Serpents US. I've got, I'm trying to kick up the Serpents YouTube, trying to write album 4, trying to live a normal life, taking care of, normal 30-year-old responsibilities. And I'm not 30, but 30s. And, I'm fighting a losing battle. And unfortunately, I have to play the game. And I hate it because playing the game and the algorithms and all that stuff, I know I talk about this shit all the time, but when you play the game, at least you're still in the game. If you don't, you're out. And you could see that with, people that are canceled for saying this, that, whatever. People that isolate themselves by barking at everyone that comes by, whether in real life or online. And just like, and I really keep bashing in on this on a normal basis. I always keep the dialogue open because I'm not telling you this or that. I'm just bringing attention. I'm bringing light to sometimes the strengths of an idea and also the weaknesses of an idea in an entertaining way, because as an entertainer, I have to play the game. Yes? Yes. So it's an uphill battle because I'm fighting algorithms. I'm fighting, a society at war with itself. I'm fighting individuals at war with themselves. And I'm fighting, the daily grind. And in the beginning of this journey, so I've been like this, and just to reiterate, I've been like this for years. If you look at Oceano, you look at the imagery, you look at the messaging, you look at, everything I've done and put out after Oceano, all the way till now, I've always been a part of something that is meant to inform, but at the same time, I use entertainment as a way to enlighten it, to inform. And I remember back then in the Oceano days when we did the District of Misery video, and I didn't take any part in the lyrics for that album, and but a lot of the lyrics for that album, we talked about. We had little, discussions and chats in the van, in person. And, we really fed off of each other's energy. And because honestly, at the time, I really wasn't into, like Alex Jones or InfoWars or, I think, what was that video at the time that was circling around? It'll come to me later. But, conspiracy theories or just theories in general, because oddly enough, a lot of those things came true. So, conspiracy theory? I don't think so. If you look at it, by the way, conspiracy theory is actually a phrase created by the government to disillusion people and to dismiss people. So someone could discover the truth about something, say it, publicize it, and government entities, the media, could say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. That's just a conspiracy. You're crazy. And we see that today, now more than ever, and so obvious. So fucking obvious. So we've warned people of this potential truth. At the time, it was a conspiracy theory. Most of the stuff came true. And I've always warned people for years. This is what's happening. This is going to be the outcome. And this is what's going to happen if you don't follow along, fall in line, reject authority. It's in my nature. And I leave it to you. I leave it to the listener. And granted, I didn't write the lyrics for that record or anything, but I wouldn't have played in the band, if I didn't. Well, let me backtrack. I wouldn't have been a part of the band in terms of like writing and creating and putting my name on it if I didn't believe in it. That's why you really didn't see me, putting my name as on albums or anything with any of the other bands I was in after that, like Straight Line Stitch, Defiler, and Thick as Blood, whatever. I always put my name on Serpents because that I could vouch for. That's what I believe in. Oceano, Depths, that's what I believe in. And there was some instances where I was like, I don't know if I'm too down with that, but hey, got to give people a little wiggle room. I know a lot of people over the years have said, a lot of people I'm not cool with over the years have said I'm not the best to work with, but I think if you ask my guys currently, I think they would tell you I'm more than accommodating. I just think it's hate. Whatever. But my 2020 journey was re-sparked by watching these videos of an ex-KGB agent in the 80s talking about what's it called? Subversion, demoralization, and more. And he talked about to successfully infiltrate a society and change society however way you want. This is how the KGB, this is how the Soviets did it. And he warned people in the 80s about this. And, this is like in the beginning of quarantine and stuff. And I'm looking and I'm like, holy shit. His name is Yuri Bezmenov, ex-KGB. Yuri, that's Y-U-R-I, Bezmenov, B-E-Z-M-E-N-O-V. I don't know, it could be different. I don't know. But, we watched these videos and we were just like, holy shit. This has happened. And this guy was talking in the 80s. So, back then he was saying it takes 15 to 30 years to change a society the way you want it. And if you want to talk politics, this is the wrong podcast. But I firmly believe that, our public servants are compromised in some sort of way. Not all of them, but the more vocal ones probably are. And, they have other interests, let's say. And honestly, I've noticed the change even while in school and when 9/11 happened. And you see the change in education. You see the change in music. You see the change in TV. It's change in media, books, whatever. And I think this is all part of that. So looking around today, I'm like, whoa, man, this is insanity. So bringing it back to the Yuri Bezmenov thing is looking at his steps in how to change a society for however a group wants to change said society, and being that he was ex-KGB Soviet, I'm kind of looking around today and I see this like rising case for America to turn socialist or communist. And that's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, that is a literal fact spoken by people that are motioning to change the country at this very moment. And that's why there's so much fervor in the air. But again, looking back to the Yuri Bezmenov thing, one of the things he said in the 80s, and remember, he was a defector, or I think it's the word defector, basically he escaped the KGB, Soviet land rule, whatever, and fled to America. And you see that with a lot of people that were living in communist, socialist, whatever countries, Marxist countries. And they've come to America because this is the last hope of the world. This is the bastion of freedom. This is the bastion of hope. America is the promised land. And I can tell you, as someone who has traveled the country, as someone who's traveled to other countries, overseas, cross the borders, talk to people, I legitimately like to talk to strangers in foreign countries. And a lot of the time, they always had this weird opinion about America that I've never heard before. And I always like to talk to them about it. And a lot of the times we would be made fun of, or they would make fun of me, for being American. And I want to know why and whatever. And then they would tell me their case for their country, and I'd be like, weird, I heard this and this about your country and the way you guys live. And we would find a middle ground, to be honest with you, and it would be a nice conversation. And I learned so much from all of these people in all of these different countries. And at the same time, I essentially was acting as a representative for my country. And the lizard and I, we kind of make fun of each other all the time, because that's like the first time I went to another country with another person, not, in a band, representing a band. But her and I had totally different approaches when we went to Iceland. And, everything that she was doing, I was like nervous. I was like, don't do it. Don't say it that, or be nice. Or it's not that she's mean or rude. It's just different mannerisms that I know. Well, my paranoia tells me, the Icelanders are going to take that as like us being rude or sloppy or whatever. So her and I, learned off of each other. And then we also learned off of the Icelandic people at the same time that we were learning off of each other on how to represent ourselves. And coming back to the Yuri thing, I know I keep dancing around the subject, is that he was trying to warn us in the 80s, because this is the last place. This is it. And as you can see, the act of subversion has been steadily at play. And being of my age group, I can tell you that after 9/11, education, media, and all that stuff I spoke about earlier took a different narrative. And it could have been earlier than 9/11 or a little bit after 9/11. Don't, quote me on that. But ask yourself, those of you that are, in your 30s or whatever, ask yourself, how have things changed? How has the narrative changed? Obviously now we can't even talk to each other. Obviously now it's cool to hate where you come from, even your state, even your town, even your neighborhood. And, as long as there's a meme about it, it's okay. Ha 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 ha. Life sucks. I'm going to kill myself. Ha ha ha. That is a product of this long work, this long subversion that my generation was right smack dab in the middle of it. So obviously the people who are older grew up in the generation where you were proud to be, an American, or proud to be wherever you come from, because you knew history. You knew what a gift it truly is, and you don't even need to go outside of the country to know this. Okay? It was instilled. Appreciation. Appreciate what you have. The American dream, so to speak, right? And just seeing like the change in my generation, and some people fell for it and some people didn't. They're pushing back. But you look at the generations under mine, especially the children now and what they're learning. If you if you don't look at what your kids are learning and question or even recognize that it's different than what you've learned or what your parents have learned, at what point are you going to ask questions? What point are you going to ask? What point are you going to ask yourself, was I lied to? Or are these kids getting lied to right now? And per Yuri's premonition, he said 15 to 30 years. I think we're right in the middle of that shit. And I think right now is a very, very crucial time, because society as we know it, as you and I know it, is a disillusion. It's a disillusion. We have been fed so many different narratives. Even your fucking favorite Disney movie is secretly telling you, or secretly, signaling to you to feel this way, to look at these people that way. Even when I was a kid, I swear to God, even when I was a kid, I had teachers during some election, I think it was like Bush, and I even had a teacher tell me, oh, well, this and this party is more for this, and this party is like rich money, this and that, traditionalists. And that shit was confusing, because the next period I had a different teacher that was like, this party is this, that, this and this. And it's confusing. And our generation, my generation, is confused. It's confused. And it took me a while to get it. I'm not perfect. I will say that one of the beginning stages of being an occultist, being initiated, enlightened, is to identify or at least understand that you've been wrong. I was wrong. I believed different things, and I had to shed that skin. I had to suck it up and kill my ego in order to get to the next step, enlightenment, the better being. You have to be big enough to say, okay, I was lied to. I was disillusioned. And everything that we see now about society is a disillusionment. It is the product of essentially brainwashing. And everything that's happening, everything that people are doing, it's essentially just feeding the machine. And the outliers, hopefully all of you that are listening to this podcast, are most of the time cast out or dismissed or whatever, because you see things as they are. And That's not acceptable at this stage. We're smack dab in the middle of this operation, if I'm correct. And to be honest with you guys, I have been correct a lot of the times. And you can ask the lizard how frustrated I get, because I've been singing about this stuff for 10 years. I've been warning people for a long time. And even the day-to-day things, I'll watch the news or I'll look at what this person's saying, that person's saying, and I'll be like, they're signaling that this is this, or this person is secretly this, and this is going to happen because their interests go to this, and that interest goes to that, and this is what is essentially is going to happen. And I tell people sometimes when I'm feeling entertaining, I want to entertain and enlighten at the same time, or make people question something, and it just falls flat on its face. And a lot of the times it's because of the fucking algorithms, which if you look today, they're in court right now as we speak, feuding about the algorithms and whatnot. People like me being silenced. And I'm not saying conservatives. I'm not conservative. I'm saying people who have a different opinion that's different from the norm. We're being silenced. The media is telling you, oh, it's just conservatives that are being silenced and it's a big deal. Okay, whatever. Fine. Whatever. As long as it's being addressed, right? But one of the big things about this that I see in my day-to-day is that it's the one-dimensional thing, the black and white. Everything is this or that. You're an ist or an ism. And I'm here to tell you guys, context is everything. And you cannot get context without discussion, without understanding where so-and-so is coming from. Right? You can't understand that this black metaler is saying all deathcore is pussy, fucking whatever shit, and blah, 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 without asking the person, well, what'd you grow up listening to? Or where are you from? Or, you know, where'd you get this idea? Where'd you get this information? You know, context is everything. And I feel like we've lost that now more than ever. And I really, truly feel for the children right now that are not even being like offered an opportunity to think this or that. They are being told this is what it is. If you question this, you are an ist or an ism, and you should be sent home from school. Not to mention that they pretty much grow up in an instant gratification society. So it's either right here, right now, and, you know, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And when you look at that, or you look at what happens when a generation like that grows up, especially a generation that has been quarantined and looking at computer screens for about a year now, you look at that and then there really is no patience for discourse or context or whatever. It's either you're this or you're that. You're with us or you're against us. Which is what our oppressors dream. That's their dreamland. You know, that's exactly what they want from us. They want us against each other. Those who are against the party are punished or worse. And honestly, I don't know how it's gotten this far. Granted, I believe that a lot of these ideas that have been injected into our society have been subliminally injected as per Yuri's, what would you call it, presentations. But also it does play into our better interests, our better, our instincts, right? We all know this to be true. This is bad, and what has happened is these people have found a workaround and have initially, I guess they identified, what makes us strong as a people and how can they turn that on its head. And again, if you look at, the older generations that really do know what it's like to be in a society or community or have love for their country, wherever they come from. And, whoops, COVID came and a lot of those people died off. And, you have the older people, which the younger people are calling boomers, and they're calling these kids Zoomers, and it's just disconnect after disconnect after disconnect. And when those people die off or whatever, it's up to our generation. And it seems like we're in this purgatory, this hell, where, we're against each other because, this is how we were taught. And we learned this essentially in school. And I'm proud that being a Middle Eastern kid, I know I don't look Middle Eastern, but, full-blooded, raised old school. I went to school every day. I listened to my teachers, whatever. My parents told me, you listen to your teachers, but if anything, out of the ordinary is said or happens, you let us know. Because all in all, we are God to you, and that's honestly where my, I guess you could say, disdain for unchecked authority came from. I would have teachers, principals, lunch moms basically attempt to control or pretty much abuse or harass me. And I was always put in, timeout, or I was always put in detention simply for speaking up for myself or simply for using logic against these people. And that's when I was put in detention, I became, like a close friend with one of the monitors in this detention program. And she was an older lady, very kind. And I think that's honestly where I got along with the older generation right at the beginning. Like when I was a kid, I always found the older generations more fascinating. And even when I was a kid, I was friends with older kids. And I learned a lot about people, or how to talk to people, or sympathize, empathize, whatever you want. And she honestly made detention pretty fun. But essentially, in my upbringing, I was taught not to trust what I was being told, not to trust what was being pressed onto me, and essentially to, let my parents know what was happening to me. And I see now a lot of kids really, they come home and they hop on their, iPads or parents' phones, and there really isn't much talk of, how was your day? What happened? Show me your homework, whatever. Did you learn that the country wasn't founded in 1776? Stuff like that. And I feel like this is a very crucial time in our society where I think a lot of us are asleep, not to be used in the context of woke versus not woke, because to be honest with you, a lot of people that consider themselves woke should probably go back to sleep because they do not get it whatsoever. Because best believe that these people, these entities, these societies that Yuri warned us about, best believe they anticipated you being quote unquote woke. They anticipated people who don't really dive too much deeper than the surface or hearsay. And they set up a little program just for these people as well. And it fed into, what did I say? Their best instincts, their interests, their compassion. And it turned something that was meant to be beautiful upside down and on its head. So it's just a very, very, very confusing time. And thankfully, I was raised, old school, even though I was first born in this country. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, because guess what? It's not like I can go back to my family's motherland, right? The ancient lands, because they're war torn. And everyone who is, of a certain faith or of a certain race, of a certain nationality, they're either being persecuted or beaten in the streets to death, or, it's scary over there, right? And a person like me, it wouldn't be very welcome. There's a reason why we never played over there. I always wanted to play there in the Middle East and see the countries and hear, because I've heard great things about those countries. I've heard that they're very beautiful, and what we see on TV is like, the equivalent of like the trailer park, or I don't know what you would even put it as. And I've spent a lot of time in trailer parks touring, so it's not a knock on trailer parks, but you see a trailer park versus, let's say, like a metropolis. It's different, right? It's a little bit of a different attitude. It's a little bit of a different whatever, and that's what I mean when I say that. So what you see on TV of the Middle East is not how it all is, but you do have a lot of people from over there fleeing to here because this is a last chance. This is the only place for salvation on this earth, because a lot of other countries, even though they may seem like a utopia, they are compromised, so to speak. They are there are other interests at play. All of these countries are beautiful countries, and I love traveling the world. I love meeting people. But it's also no secret that, you walk down the street, say a wrong thing, and you could be bonked on the head and thrown into a jail cell for however many years. That does happen, folks. That does happen. Or if you speak against this, best believe you probably won't be speaking too much, And let's say there's no physical harm. Okay. Well, best believe that you are going to be taxed beyond belief, and your quality of life will not be as great as it could be. But we're taught here that everything that isn't here is a utopia. It's perfect. It's beautiful. But you go over to these countries and they're like, please tell us, how is it over there? It's weird. It's weird because you see all these people and how they see this country that I live in, I was born in, and you kind of scratch your head and you're like, well, I heard it was like a miserable place. I heard my country is like horrible. And then you talk to them and you're like, wow, we really are lucky to be here. And then you kind of feel, like motivated to protect everything that it stands for. Hell, even being in a, satanic whatever band, like that honestly doesn't fly easily in other countries. And it might seem like that, but a lot of those bands are also persecuted by the government. I mean, look at Behemoth. Nurgle is in court, or was in court, over like, anti-religious acts and whatnot. And last I checked, as of now, nobody's knocking on, I don't know, Deicide's door. So, I don't know, man. Things are weird. And it's probably going to get weirder as the week progresses. I know by the time you hear this, it might be before the election, after the election, who knows? But it seems like politics or whatever are like the new talk of the town. Everybody's talking as if they are talking about their favorite sports team, or they're talking about their favorite whatever. It's, if you live in Chicago, you got to be a Bulls fan. You can't be this fan, or, whatever. So it just kind of seems like, I don't even know where I was going with that, but either way, it just seems kind of weird. And I know I said that like a million times, but it's very weird for someone who sees all sides. And, I'm of the mindset, why can't you do this, but also, help bridge the gap between this party, that party, or this genre, that genre, this whatever, that team. I mean, you see it in sports. People, trade players and make their team better by grabbing this guy, that guy. Some bands, they replace members, or they integrate certain aspects in their music, their genre. And since everyone is all of a sudden so fired up about politics, it's like, why aren't we finding some sort of middle ground in what seems to be the most divisive subject in our society as it stands? Why not cherry pick from, the Democrat policies, or the Republican policies, or the socialist policies, or the green policies, or the, you know what I mean? Libertarian policies. Like, yeah, have a president, a party, whatever. Have everything be normal. But there's got to be that middle ground. And I honestly think that's been happening for the past 4 years. I know a lot of people, refuse to believe that that's a actual occurrence, but it has been happening. We are led by a Republican president, but a lot of things that happened in the past 4 years, some of them were very not Republican, which pissed a lot of Republicans off. And, I think we're in the right direction in that point. It's just that you do that, and then you piss off the one-dimensional people, or in this particular example, that the one-dimensional Republicans. Like, how dare you adopt this socialist idea or Democrat policy or whatever? It's just, why not? I don't know. Expand your mind. Context. See where everybody's coming from. And I think, based on facts and observations, I feel that, we're on that trajectory. But with COVID and all this stuff happening, everybody got locked down and divided, and everything got way worse, to the point that we can't even see truth. We can't even see facts. We can't even talk to someone that, what's your idea for this or whatever. And kind of sucks. But all in all, however this next week goes, I have a feeling a lot of people that don't understand these ideas, this I don't know how to explain it. Understand this social, what would you call it? Understanding. Will, act out. I mean, I already see statuses where people are, screaming in their pillows and wishing death upon so-and-so. And yeah, I've been in that position too, which that was like 4 years ago. And I was in a very dark place, but I've changed. I've grown. I tried to understand, all of what was being said, but I was disillusioned, and I admitted I was wrong. I understand now. Like I said, that's fucked up. I don't even remember that version of me from back then. Like, that's how occult knowledge kind of transmutates a person. Every day you should be pretty much a new person. And every episode of this podcast pretty much is like a different version of me. And sometimes I talk about the same thing. Sometimes I talk about different abstract ideas, like this episode. I did say in previous episodes, I won't talk politics, and I'm sticking to that. I'm sticking to it. And if you misconstrue this episode as politics type of episode, or me pushing any sort of lean towards this, that, left, right, up, down, then you have sorely misunderstood me. And I highly encourage you to listen back to what I said, so maybe you could understand it before you even talk, or if you make a face, or scrunch up your neck and your chin. You get what I'm saying. If you heard any of this and you're feeling that way, then you got to restart. You got to restart. Then there is a problem, because I haven't said anything controversial. And that's the sad part about existing today. You got to sit there with the disclaimer for everything. I don't really care to disclaim, but I love all my listeners, and I care about you all, and I wish the best for you all. And if all of you are living the best versions of your life, then we all can move upward in society, as a race, as a generation, as a whatever, species. So, the ultimate lesson of this episode is to question everything, but also have an open mind. Take care of yourself, because if you take care of yourself, then everything outside of you won't affect your well-being, whether physically, mentally, spiritually. Everything will work itself out the way it does through nature. You trust the process of nature. You trust the process of the structure of society as we know it. And if things go awry, in time, there will be justice. And if you believe that there has been injustice, then know that the way our society is structured in 2020 and the way that the process is handled in 2020, we do the best we can with what we can, and wild accusations, factless statements and whatnot won't hold weight in the true scope of things. So you just have to trust the process and trust the system that we live in, because this is the same system that will judge you. If you do something wrong, you blow a red light or, something other extreme, this is the same process that you would hope to God would be truthful and thorough and factual to you for your well-being, right? Or even for a victim. You want justice for a victim in a normal day-to-day process, right? Courts, whatever. So, whatever happens, just take care of yourself. Stay calm, stay patient, and everything will iron itself out. Again, might not be what you want, might not be what I want, might not be what your best friend wants, your lover, your parents, but that is life. Contrast. That's life. Without light, or if you're of shadows, you wouldn't know the beauty of light if you didn't have light to contrast the shadows. Same thing. You wouldn't appreciate light if you are of light, if you didn't know what shadows are. It's the beauty of duality, the yin and yang, light and dark, masculine, feminine, the king and the queen. This is balance. Okay? When you achieve balance, then you achieve perfection. And right now, it's kind of unbalanced, but nature will work it out. And in regards to the human, we have our processes as well. So I hope this calmed you in a sense. I hope this enlightened you in a sense. I hope that this helped you in a sense, even if you see things this way or that way. I hope this helped you see both sides of the story, just like I do in all of the Serpents songs, just like I do in my everyday musings and whatnot. And I genuinely wish the best for you and myself and the world around me and all the countries of the world. This is a rough time for everybody. Everybody's hurting. Literally, everybody's hurting. Even your favorite celebrities, whatever. Everybody. I don't want to list it all again. I know you guys are probably tired of hearing my voice. So, on that note, I think I'm going to wrap up this episode. I appreciate you listening this far. If you did have the patience to listen this far, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out some of the other episodes before it. This episode was a little late because I had found out some unfortunate news that I believe I will address in another episode because it is very fresh, and I try to push through and get this episode out before the election. And also, a side note, I wanted to tell you all, have a happy Halloween and a blessed Samhain. Okay. So I just wanted to get this out there before I address, I guess, the news that I had heard today. But anyways, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. Please rate the podcast, comment on the podcast wherever applicable. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, if you want to talk, if you want to yell at me, if you want to contest anything, or if you just want to meet like-minded people, join our Facebook group while Facebook is still a thing at facebook.com/groups/the6M podcast. That's THESIXM podcast. And also, since this show has no sponsors, I am going to say that being the singer and guitarist of Serpents US, I ask you to do two things, okay? Number one, head to our Spotify, follow us on Spotify. You can find us at Serpents US. Listen to our music, listen to my lyrics. If any of it resonates with you, do me a favor and also throw us on your favorite playlists, whether if it's your workout playlist, your work playlist, your sex playlist, whatever you got. Something that you listen to on a regular basis. Every play helps. Every follow helps. And being that we can't get out there and play and build a fan base, this is very important to the longevity of the project. Secondly, I would ask that you head to our YouTube at youtube.com/user/weareserpents and follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm streaming more. I'm doing more vlogs, hopefully some other things as well. So I'm constantly putting out new content for you guys to enjoy while we are locked in and locked down and chained to not doing anything productive other than sitting at home and creating at home. So do me a favor, subscribe to our YouTube. A lot more stuff coming there. And that's it. That's all I have for you. Like I said earlier, stay calm. Take care of yourself. Have a happy Halloween and a blessed Samhain. Okay? Is that all right with you? Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. And I hope to see you next week for our next episode.